Hey Saints, welcome back to SFHS Today. I'm Bailey Reed.
And I'm Emily Nurnberger. In school news, on November 7th, the residents of ISD 15 will be voting on a building bond referendum. Reporters Cami Ferguson and Maggie Winkle spoke with the superintendent as well as teachers at the high school to get more information on the impact it would have on SFHS.
We are asking the taxpayers of Independent School District 15 to approve an $80,060,000 one-question bond. That $80 million will make improvements across the district.
We're going to be upgrading and fixing some issues that we have in all of our buildings and adding on to our buildings, getting students out of portables, getting them back into one facility at SFE.
Out of the $80,060,000, about $26 million will be allocated to the high school. So that's the biggest portion. It's our biggest building in the district, and many of the projects are quite big.
One thing that stands out is the importance of making our building much more accessible for sporting events and things like that. We haven't really updated that in a long time, and that's something that concerns me a little bit, is that like when grandparents come to football games or soccer games or track, there really isn't the ability for them to sit out there. So that's something that we've earmarked as very important. Also would help us as we do graduation outside to make it more accessible for people that are in wheelchairs, and that can be students and parents. So, and that would also be across the board.
It affects me as a teacher, but also because my own children go to the school district.
This whole bond is about giving kids more opportunities.
We also are looking at modifying the media center so it's more open to support student groups, so students would do that.
The biggest difference this time around is that there's only one question. When we polled our community on why they didn't support the last bond effort in May, they said it was because the two questions were confusing. And so we narrowed that down just to education spaces and refurbishing all of the buildings, getting rid of the portables, many of the things that have been mentioned earlier. And people said that they could support that.
I think one of the things that I think about is the safety and the security. And I know that there are things that they're going to do to the buildings to help improve that. And I also, just to create better environments and for our academics to grow and the excellence in our building. If we take pride in our buildings and in our structures, I think the students then take pride in their education too. And we just create environments that students want to learn in.
Thanks for the information. SFHS Today will have more information about the impact on other schools in the weeks to come.
Following a recent brawl in the Tech Ed hallway, reporters Spencer Baldwin and Andrew Gilbert spoke to teachers, counselors, and administrators about the consequences, causes, and how students could help instead of hinder during an altercation.
How do situations escalate to violence?
So sometimes students will get into a conflict, or maybe there's a disagreement, maybe a student doesn't like, and violence can seem like the most immediate or quickest reaction students can have. It can sometimes feel like the only reaction to handle the situation, which is definitely not true. There's a lot of things that come into play before it actually escalates to violence that we like students to do.
What are some things teachers risk when getting involved in school fights?
Well, the first and maybe the most important thing is they risk their own personal and physical harm when becoming involved in a school fight. There is some risk of what we'd probably call liability, and by that is a student who might be injured in a fight could possibly, seek some type of damages from either the school or the individual teacher. Teachers do have some protections during those cases. We do have some due process rights as well as protection through Education Minnesota our local union, which would usually advocate for the teacher as well.
If you can tell that a situation is escalating to violence, especially like if you're seeing one happen, if you know one of the people, just try to get them to walk away. You can definitely don't engage back into if it's a verbal disagreement, don't engage or try to defend your friend, just try to help, remove them from the situation.
What are some of the consequences of school violence?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different forms of school violence. Certainly fights that may occur or things like along those lines are taken very seriously as far as from a school standpoint. So there are kind of set criteria that we look at, but there's a little bit of a variance as far as what might happen. For a fight, there's probably out-of-school suspension, potentially in-school suspension, depending on what happens in the scenario.
If you see a violent situation happening, sometimes it can be very natural to get frozen by what's called the Bystander Effect, where everyone just kind of stops and watches. And this is not a helpful thing to stand around and watch. So the first thing to do is go get an adult immediately. Don't just stand around. Go find someone. Doesn't matter who the adult is, but that would be the first and most important thing to do.
According to a national sample from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC found that 7.8% of students grades 9 through 12 had reported being in a physical fight on school property, and 5.6% reported that they missed school for one or more days because they felt unsafe at school.
In other news, SFHS Media likes to bring focus to national and world stories by finding people in our own communities who have a story to tell.
This week, Laurel Brewer and Casey Shields spoke with high school language arts teacher Brittany Kurtz about how the hurricanes that pounded the coast of Texas have affected her life with a new addition to her home.
How did you get into fostering dogs?
I really like dogs, and fostering is a great way to spend time with dogs that's not permanent. You can usually foster a dog anywhere from 2 weeks to possibly months if they don't get fostered, but it's just a good way to interact with dogs and give them a new opportunity at finding a forever home.
So you're currently fostering a dog. Tell us about it.
Okay, so the dog I'm currently fostering is named Easton. He is a 4-month-old puppy. We think he's a hound mix, but a lot of times with fosters, they are mixed breeds. We don't know a lot about their background, so all I really know is he's really sweet, and he's had a pretty rough start at life. He was a litter that came from Houston, and during the hurricane, they brought the litter to Alabama, and then they had a 26-hour drive to Chicago, and then they drove them to Minnesota, so he has been through a lot. When we first get fosters, including Easton, they are very traumatized. They've been through, like I said, a difficult situation, and usually the drive is from the south. And with Easton, we took him from the kennel. He was nervous. He wasn't very welcoming. He was timid. He was scared. And within, I'd say, 6 hours, he was jumping on us and licking us, and now he's just kind of become a temporary part of our family.
Okay, how can someone help or spread awareness?
To help with dogs that need homes, a lot of it's on social media. Just anytime you see an animal that has come from a bad situation, if you can just spread even its message or its story, social media is incredible. You can, spread a message to millions of people within a matter of seconds. So that's one way you can get the word out. If you or your family is able to foster, the shelter that I work for, No Dog Left Behind, really needs fosters right now, especially with the natural disasters that have been occurring recently. So you can always file an application online. And fostering is free, which is amazing. Not just my organization, but lots of organizations will provide you with materials, anything from like kennels, leashes, dog food. They pay for the vet bills. All they really need from you is just your time and your volunteer experience, and then obviously your love for this animal that otherwise would have been euthanized or homeless or you name it. So it's an incredible way to help animals if you are a big animal lover.
What a great way to make an impact during a traumatizing time. This is homecoming week, and Student Council has a few new fun and exciting things planned for students before game day Friday. There will be tailgating, food trucks, dunk tank, and more. There will also be a photo booth available every day during Saints time in the Commons.
Today, stay cozy in your pajamas. Tomorrow, rep your favorite sports team, and on Wednesday, match with your friends. On Thursday, dress as a tourist, and last but not least, Friday, wear your Saints gear.
It's a busy week with senior sunrise on Wednesday this week at 7 a.m. on the football field. Donuts and juice will be provided.
NHS has its induction ceremony Wednesday night in the Performing Arts Center, and the senior photo will be taken on the football field after the Pep Fest on Friday morning.
At the Pet Fest, homecoming king and queen will be crowned. Queen candidates are Kylie Bergman, Abby Hennon, Bailey Reed, Autumn Dorr, and Corinne Meyer.
King candidates are Tanner Kuncher, Luke Lipinski, Jaron Imberg, Dawson Neese, and Jake Hofer.
Looking into more changes this year, reporters Austin Adler and Ronan Iverson spoke to people about what they do during Saints time.
So over the summer, administration and a lot of teacher leaders got together several times to sort of put all of the pieces together and make sure that we could get it to be something that would be really effective to help with student academic success. So we had to kind of figure out all of the logistics for it and weigh the pros and cons for this particular setup of it.
Where do you go during Saints time?
I usually go to the library, but I also go to the PAC and the cafeteria.
Do you think it has been effective for the students and staff so far this year?
I think it's been highly effective. I think it's allowed students to really get into their classrooms to get extra academic intervention, and that will probably prove itself in test scores ultimately. Students have been taking advantage of opportunities that have been presented to them to improve their academic success. So that's really encouraging to see. Walking around the hallways during Saints time, it's really great to see full classrooms of students engaging with the teacher, just to try to get a better understanding of the curriculum that they're working on.
I usually go in the lunchroom or the gym.
For Saints time, I typically go to the cafeteria.
I think it's been really beneficial for our students.
Finally, today we have a teacher feature on our new choir teacher, Josiah Telschow.
At Bloomington Kennedy High School for the last 9 years.
At the beginning, it was pretty difficult to get used to him, but as the weeks have gone by, it's gotten progressively easier with more communication and just in general, just talking more.
Telshow's been really easy to talk to. It was difficult at first, getting to know him, but once you get to know him, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Kind of like Amber said, it's easy to talk to him. Once you get to know him, he's pretty cool.
How do you like it here so far?
I love St. Francis High School. It's been a really welcoming place to work. It's been really exciting to come here as a teacher in a new environment, and I found people to be welcoming and hardworking, which is two great assets.
Yeah, I agree. He's really personable. He's just like a family man and just likes to get to know all of us, which is really nice too.
Taking on the choirs has been a really fun challenge. I love what I do. I love my work. I found the singers to be hardworking and motivated. So in that respect, it hasn't been challenging so far. We've been working through some things, but I'm really positive and really happy with the start of the year so far.
So far, he's doing pretty good. I feel like he's challenging us enough, and he's being understanding that this isn't easy for him and for us. So kudos to him.
There are a lot of differences here at St. Francis with Kennedy High School. I think the school culture is a lot different. I found people to be really respectful and kind towards each other here, and I really value that. It's a good place to work, a good place to be.
Now let's throw it over to Random Question Thing and sports.
Hey Saints, I'm Cami Ferguson, and this is Sport. Welcome to homecoming week. The girls volleyball team had 2 games last week. They lost 3-1 at St. Michael Albertville and won 3-1 at Monticello. This week they play an away game on Tuesday at Chisago Lake and are home versus Monticello on Thursday. In soccer news, the boys team had 3 games against Hibbing, Bid Lake, and Monticello, with a Monday night win of 1-0 and a Thursday night win of 2-0. The girls team had 2 games Monday that they played. Big Lake and won 2-0. And Thursday, they lost to Monticello 1-4. For the homecoming week, the boys and girls varsity play St. Anthony Village tonight at home, splitting the field. The boys play at 5 and the girls at 7. With no recovery time, both teams play at Cambridge Isani Tuesday night at home. They round out the week on Thursday against Buffalo, where the girls travel to Buffalo and the boys get home field advantage here in St. Francis. Last Thursday, cross country had a meet at Buffalo, and this week, the team has an invitational at the Fox Hollow Golf Club. Last Saturday, girls tennis played Fridley away, hosted Chisago Lakes on Tuesday, and on Thursday, they hosted Big Lake here at home near night. For homecoming week, they head into team section. In national news, there has been a great deal of controversy surrounding the NFL players kneeling for the national anthem. We sent reporters Andrew Gilbert and Spencer Baldwin to get some reactions from the people in the school community.
How do you feel about people kneeling for the anthem?
So this is a really crazy thing that's taken over our entire country's kind of discussion is this idea of NFL players kneeling during the national anthem as a form of protest. It initiated with one player, and that blew up. And now I think the NFL has really started, in response to some recent tweets by our president, there's been some backlash on that, and people are showing some unity. To me, the thing is, I teach journalism and I teach about the First Amendment.
So how do you feel about people kneeling during the national anthem?
I think it's not as respectful as standing, because when the military salute, they stand up, not kneel.
The NFL players who have chosen to kneel during the national anthem are not protesting the country, they're not protesting the anthem, they're not protesting the NFL, they're protesting the treatment of African American people in this country, and they're trying to bring awareness to a cause.
I think it's just their freedom of speech. It's not as respectable as standing, but they have a voice. It's their opinion.
I'd prefer people to stand, personally. That's just my personal belief. I think when Colin Kaepernick probably did it the first time, I'm not sure he has maybe the same depth that he does right now. I think if you look at some of the players like Malcolm Jenkins, like Anquan Bolden, who retired, they have a real message that I think people should listen to. So I would prefer people to stand. If people choose not to, there's no doubt with anyone that understands the Constitution that they have a legal right to choose that form of peaceful.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And I think that the thing that's happening in the national discourse is that people are upset because they feel it's disrespectful to the country, it's disrespectful to the anthem, it's disrespectful for what the country stands on. But I would argue that the country stands, this country, the United States of America, has always stood on First Amendment rights and the ability of individuals to protest, to speak their minds without government interference.
Finally, after all of the Spirit Days, Friday's homecoming game kicked off at 7 p.m. against Chisago Lake. Coming off of a close game and a 12-15 loss last Friday, the team hoped to bring home the win. The Superfan theme is Saints Out. Make sure to enjoy the dunk cake and food trucks prior to the game.
It's the random question thing, ding.
I'd have to say my spirit animal is a goat, because I'm the goat.
A monkey.
A deer. A lion.
A shark.
A very rare green-scaled velociraptor.
My spirit animal is a pigeon.
And mine is a flamingo.
Have a great week, Saints.